RXT Intuition. Here with Jackson, Erik Ruck. We're gonna go down a little bit of a wormhole in the world of the RXTs. Cool thing about RXTs is something that Ronix did in the past with parks was drop a boot before a board.
Right.
And you know, in the beginning of the whole concept of RXT, the boot came before the board.
It sure did, man. 2017, turning back the clock. It was that naked technology boot, kind of like the polar opposite of the one boot. That was so unique at the time, and I think like Massey especially just fit right into that role.
Very cool, very cool. I remember doing the original RXT video with Massey. I remember a bunch of all of the R&D that went into it. And it was just a really exciting time because the whole concept was, you know, let's not hold back on you know, everything that we can put into a product.
Yeah.
No holds barred.
Right. Let's test the boundaries, right? Like, let's make the best product possible and ask questions later. So I think like that's always been true with the RXT, and I think it's like definitely pushing the sport.
And that leads us to the name, the Ronix Experimental Technology.
Oh yeah. RXT, Ronix Experimental Technology, has taken all of those ideas that we've had for years and years and years and just like bringing them to life, whether it works or doesn't work, right? So we obviously do our testing to make sure we have a product that works, but it's more centered around like, let's take some chances. Let's find some limits, right? Let's see how soft we can make a boot when it still feels locked in when you're charging towards the wake.
Talked about history, talked about the name, RXT. Let's dive a little deeper into the purpose of the boot.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what made this boot like so much of an experiment, is that like it was the softest boot laterally, like flexing left and right? You know, like we've all seen our favorite rider poke out a grab. We've seen all those knee tucks going down. So how could we make a boot that was so flexible medial lateral, but then still super supportive around your ankle? So when you're like charging the wake, you have all the confidence that you're going to be supported. And that was just a new concept for us. So that was the purpose of this boot, is not to replicate what we did with the one boot, but kind of go to the other side of the spectrum.
And, you know, going with along who's riding it, that was just very evident in just the way Massey, you know, pokes things out and grabs and has that, you know, ability to have that flex and have that movement.
Right. Well, still being supported, right? Like that was the hardest thing, is like you don't want to put them in something that is going to compromise their like ankles as they're coming down. So we've still got so much support in there, but it's got all the forgiveness in the world left to right.
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, I feel like that is something that kind of was a game changer in the world of boots. I feel like for such a long time, boots were like heavy and clunky, and I mean, just like, you know, a boot, and this like the range of motion was totally changed by this whole boot. All right, moving on. Let's talk about Intuition liners. Now,
yeah, absolutely.
Intuition, obviously not anything totally new for Ronix. Ronix has, you know, been a long-time partner with Intuition, but why don't you bring us down the wormhole?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're so lucky to be partnered with our friends up in Vancouver that have been making Intuition foam in the backcountry ski and snowboard side. We're lucky to be able to use some of that technology on our wakeboard side, and I think it's just like super prevalent, especially in the RXT, that as you get towards the end of your set, you're not like wanting to take these off, right? Like that Intuition foam, the way it wraps around you, the double lasted technology so that it has a last for the inside liner, and then it's also molding the outer surface of that liner, so there's no dead space. They fit great right out of the box. If they don't particularly match your foot, you can heat mold them, and it's going to keep that same shape for the entirety of the boot's life. And yeah, I think it's just so cool that like you don't get to the end of the set and you're not like done because your feet are cramping, you know? Like that's what's so cool about Intuition to me.
Yeah, so if I'm looking to get my boot heat molded, how do I go about doing that?
The best way to get your boot heat molded is just go visit a local shop. Hopefully they've got a cooker in place that you can get those things piping hot. There's a process with Intuition where you put the toe cap on, you put a sock on, you get them nice and warm, slide your feet in, make wakeboard movements for about 5 or 6 minutes, and then by the time you're done with that, like, they're good to go.
And then you have a fully customized boot.
Fully custom, and it just completely cuts down on that break-in time, right? Like, we've all worn a brand new pair of shoes and it takes a couple weeks, where this just cuts down on that.
Yeah, I like it. I think that is a humongous feature.
For sure.
Okay, in addition to intuition, okay. In addition to intuition, materials, RXT, experimental. Where are we at?
Yeah, so I think for 2026, we've actually taken a few pages out of the playbook from the early days of the RXT, where it's that naked technology, that minimalist feel, right? So we're actually using a translucent mono mesh so you can see right inside the boot.
Which that looks insane.
Yeah, and like you can see all the inner workings of the boot, like you can see the skeleton underneath there. And so I'm really excited about that. We definitely were like sparked in Massey's vision for this boot of like having that translucent look. And so even the FlexForm 3D toe cap and the FlexForm 3D heel panel is like more of an opaque, like translucent look.
I can't remember the actual year or what. Maybe it was some old Jordans, or there were some old basketball shoes that had that translucent.
Yeah.
Like, I remember always were really cool and always stuck out to me. And the first time I saw the new RXT boot, that's the first thing I thought of.
Yeah, which I think that's killer. Like, I think it came together well, and I think it's just like consistent, where like if you knew nothing about the boot, you'd look at that one and be like, oh yeah, that's super flexible. And that was definitely the goal with what we were trying to do, so.
Yeah, definitely. It looks flexible.
Yeah. So on top of that, like, we've still got our smooth skin liner, so it's nice and easy to get your feet in and out. We've got our feet belts, which is what makes our boots so good, whether it's that ankle harness that wraps around your ankle, giving you all that support. And then on top of that, like, we've obviously got our double lasting. So I know we touched on Intuition, but the shell of our boots is also lasted. So like that Intuition liner slides in and there's just no more dead space.
Very cool, very cool. Let's talk to a little bit more tech. Let's talk about some the chassis that it's on.
Yeah, brand new chassis for 2026. I'm stoked, man. Really just trying to simplify things and make it a little more durable in some areas, right? So brain frame was excellent. Some of my best memories on the water are coming from brain frame boots, but at this point it was time for a bit of a refresh on that. And so we actually simplified the design and made a more rigid connection between the base plate and that upper shell. And I think what it's turned out as is just, again, we're not sacrificing any of the response of the supportiveness of brain frame, but we've been able to evolve that and fine tune it. And I think it came together really well.
Very cool, very cool. All right, we touched on this already. The boot, throughout this whole conversation, we've been talking about the flex of the boot, and that's one of the things that's very unique and kind of signature to the RXT, but let's dive into the flex a little bit more.
Totally. And that's where like we want to educate our customers, our dealers, that like flex is different than responsiveness, right? Like when we talk about flex, we're really talking about like left and right, kind of side to side flex, where we still want responsiveness forward to back as you're changing edges. So the flex of this boot will actually be a 5 out of 10, and it's going to be our lowest flex rating of any of our closed toe boots with Intuition lining, and it's going to basically be one side of the spectrum compared to our one boot. So I'm really stoked with how the flex came out, how you're able to poke things out. And yeah, I think it's one of the most flexible RXTs we've made.
Very cool. When the RXT came out, it kind of hit like a wave. I feel like we started the RXT gang hashtag, and that actually blew up. Let's kind of talk about how the RXT kind of came about and kind of its popularity over the last couple of years.
Yeah, man, I think it was like a perfect like crossing of like Massey being the guy that he is, and like this technology finally getting the backing and the R&D that it needed, right? So like he's just such a personality for the sport, and then we were able to pair that with some of the features on our boards and boots that like match his style. So I agree. I've been a part of the RXT gang for as long as I can remember. I've had all of them, boards and boots. Yeah. And I mean, I really think like as the sport started to evolve, like so did our technology, and people picked up on that.
100%. I feel like personality to product, Massey RXT has just been such a, from the start, a perfect pairing of the concept to personality, but then the growth of it.
Yeah.
Mossy's growth as a rider and as a person with the RXT collection.
Yeah.
It's just been, you know, a perfect match.
Yeah, it's definitely got quite a following at this point, and I'm pumped on that. Like, it's been great.
RXTs, baby.